Hello everyone and welcome to another Guild Wars 2 video. Today we're going to look at what happened during the Battle for Lion's Arch Living Story update. The miasma that Scarlet has been using to keep all of us out of Lion's Arch is finally blown out to sea, and we are now able to go in and attack, which Captain Magnus immediately wants to do. The Lion's Arch has now been turned back into an explorable zone, although still contested and still full of enemies, with a bunch of champions dotted throughout the map that you can fight that are all champions from last Living Story updates, like for instance the Toxic Spider and things like that. Every top of the hour though, at these little portal devices that you might have seen in the last update scattered around, 3 of Scarlet's Assault Knights will spawn. Once these Watch Knights are attackable, you have 15 minutes to defeat all 3 of them, and then you'll be able to move on to the next phase. These Watch Knights basically have 2 phases that they switch between, which is one where they reflect conditions, which screw you ArenaNet for that one, and the second phase, which is where they take more damage as long as they have conditions on them. Their attacks are pretty simple. They do a basic melee attack, which will stun, and they also switch between doing 2 different extraction attacks. One which is only melee based and around them, and the second one which is ranged based and pulls you into it when it hits you. There are also colored pools that spawn at each of the Watch Knights, which you must have the right color to be able to damage the Watch Knight that you're fighting. Once all 3 Watch Knights are dead, all 3 of those color pools will spawn red, blue, and green, and when you walk into all of them, you'll get the Prime attunement, which will allow you to go through the portal and go on to the next phase of the fight. It looks like Scarlet's really worked on her hologram generation and how good they can be, because in the next phase of the fight, you fight the Prime hologram. This fight basically has 3 phases. The first phase, you are DPSing the boss in the middle and trying not to get killed by the lasers. To be able to DPS the boss, you must have the Prime attunement, which means you have to combine all 3 of the color pools, which will be spawning randomly around the boss. It's pretty simple at this point. It's pretty much don't step in the giant glowing fields and try and get around the fields to get the buffs to damage it. It's just a slow time race. About halfway through this part, Scarlet herself will also jump in and start basically jumping around to players, damaging them and trying to kill them. You can't necessarily damage her, but she just does her annoying stuff as usual. One nice thing about this fight as well is if you do end up getting defeated during this fight, Captain Ellen Keel and Helotron will be going around and randomly rezzing people. So you don't have to worry about people yelling at you to waypoint because there's no waypoint, and you don't have to worry about rezzing a bunch of dead people too, which is a really nice touch for these boss battles. Once the Prime hologram has been taken down to around 25% health, the next phase of the fight will begin. During this phase, the holograms are split into the 3 parts, which is statics, dynamics, and synergetics. The main strategy of this fight, which we didn't know first day, is to kill all 3 of the holograms at about the same time. One alternate way to do it, which is the way that we did it this time, is to kill one of the holograms and it'll split into smaller versions and then kill the smaller versions, and go around and do that for all 3. Each of the holograms have their own little mechanics to it, as well as requiring the specific colored buff for them to be able to be damaged. After a certain amount of damage has been done to all 3 of the holograms, Scarlet will begin making the buffs swap places a lot more, so it'll be a lot harder to make sure you have the right buff, and you'll have to go running around a little bit to get it. Once all 3 of them are taken down, they recombine once again into the Ultraviolet hologram. The Ultraviolet hologram is much like the Prime hologram before in that it spawns in the middle and puts a bunch of AoEs out to the side. In fact, a lot more than the Prime hologram did. Ultraviolet is also immune to all damage from you as a player when you're trying to fight it. Every once in a while she'll spawn up to around 20 ads around the arena, which you can damage, and whenever you kill them, it will damage the Ultraviolet hologram. After a certain amount of time, she does a massive AoE, which I have not found a way to avoid. You can block it, and you can invuln through it, but I think we've killed all of the holograms, and it still seems to do the AoE no matter what. It should take about 2 or 3 phases if you kill all of the mini holograms, and then the Prime hologram will be defeated. When that happens, you get a nice little cutscene of Scarlet, or the hologram and Scarlet both being kind of thrown up into the air. And Scarlet will be very injured and will slowly limp towards her portal into her main base. Once you're inside of the instance, you meet up with Rox, Bram, Casimir, and Marjorie, and then you go in to confront Scarlet, who is still crippled and very injured from the fight before. So you walk forward with them to confront Scarlet, and a little cutscene appears, which should be playing in the background now. Scarlet begins one of her usual monologues, except for much darker if you pay attention to her. Her tone, there's no joking at all anymore. Bram tells her we don't care why she did it, we just want to get rid of her, and so we're going to, quote, arrest her, or something like that, as Marjorie puts it. As Bram and Marjorie move closer to finally end Scarlet, She uses some type of explosive device to knock them back, breaking Bram's leg and looking like it kills Marjorie, although just knocking her out. Rox refuses to leave Bram's side, and Casimir goes into a fit of murderous rage to go and try and kill Scarlet, and you go up there with her. Scarlet will continue to use these knockback skills, much like the Engineer's Downed number 3 skill, to continue to knock you back as you try to finish her. Casimir will end up distracting her if you're not able to finish her within a certain amount of time, and you will finally stomp and kill Scarlet once and for all. Once Marjorie wakes up and Casimir and Marjorie are done making out, you get this nice little cutscene which I'm going to play in full for you really quick. Despite our best efforts, the drill does in fact hit the ley line, and it disrupts it, and makes it basically send out a pulse of magic, I guess, along all the ley lines that have been. Despite all our best efforts, the drill does hit the ley line, and it sends basically like a pulse of magic along all of the ley lines. Specifically, we're shown one going through, it looks like, north through the Gandharan fields, and shown one going west, underneath the Thomanova reactor into the Maguma wastes, presumably. And if you noticed right there at the end, it looked like a mouth was opening to suck in that magic, right? Say hello to Mordramoth. If you look around in her lair after you kill her, you can find out that yes, that was the drill's intended purpose, and she'd set it up to where it was going to keep drilling even if she were to die. As an engineer, you get a little bit more flavor text, but that's basically what all of the panels end up saying. After that, you escape from the drill, basically go back and tell Magnus that you've done the deed, and this part of the living story is over. They're going to do an epilogue patch on the 18th, which I'll probably do a video for. If there's not enough to do a summary video for, I'll at least do a playthrough of it, and probably do the same playthrough for the Scarlet instance. Maybe even lump them together. I don't know. I'm not sure of that yet. So now for the fun part. All the fun theories that come from it. So the cutscene pretty much shows us Mordramoth's awake now. Whatever she's done, it's woken Mordramoth up. There's not really much of a theory there, it's pretty much a fact, and the jungle dragon does exist, as this now confirms. Some people are trying to say that that's the undersea dragon Bubbles, but you can clearly see that's land, and then you can also see butterflies and fireflies, which would say, you know, jungle area, and it kind of looks like the Maguma wastes that the ley line was going through. Now, a question to have here is, why did it show the ley line spike going north through Gandharan fields? If you look at the map of Tyria, there's no real reason why it would go north. If the ley line was going to the west there, it would go west. It might have gone north and branched maybe, but it seems like it would be more direct for it to go straight west, because there are ley lines that would go that way. Now the question here is, was Scarlet's plan just for Mordramoth, or was it for all of the dragons? Or could what she's done have side effects on the other dragons, whether intended or not? This makes sense now why she would do this all in Lion's Arch, a place where she would have to fight very hard to get into, and also where she had to use a lot of resources to track down, when she already knew that ley line crossings occurred at the Thomanova reactor and at the Crucible of Eternity. If she had wanted to just mess with Mordramoth, why not just drill into the Thomanova reactor's magic and make that spike? I mean, it's a lot closer, doesn't have as many guards, should probably actually have more of an effect on her. This is something that a friend of mine, Fratanga, first pointed out to me, and I definitely agree on him on this, that whatever she's doing is not just directed at the Jungle Dragon, or whether it's going to do something else besides that. It has woken him up, but it's probably going to tick off at least one of the other dragons. Now if you add this to the pictures that are shown on her consoles in her control room, one of the pictures is just a map of Tyria. The other picture is a zoomed in picture of the far Shiver Peaks in the southwestern edge of the Blood Legion homelands. Who do you know that is northeast of Lion's Arch, the direction that ley line pulse was going, and is in the middle of the far Shiver Peaks? Oh, that would be Jormag, wouldn't it? It's very possible that now that ArenaNet's got everyone going, oh, Jungle Dragon, saw it, so predictable, lol lol lol, that they all of a sudden throw a twist in here. They throw the twist that not even though he's awake, we end up having to fight Jormag, or maybe Primordius through this. Now, another fun theory to talk about is, why did Scarlet do this? If you remember from the last patches, she was trying to fight a voice in her head. And in this patch, it seems a lot like she's actually trying to serve that voice. She says stuff like, you'll serve a new master, and things like that. Now I'm going to go along with the theory here that she was in fact corrupted by Mordremoth, which would lead us to believe the Sylvari might have a connection to him, but that's a big theory, and that's another topic for another day when more evidence is behind it. So she's been fighting this voice in her head all this time, and doing all these things she thinks is fighting against it. When she's fighting against it, if you notice her personality in the earlier Living Story patches, very, very joking, very, very mocking, and very condescending all the time. Just basically making fun of you the whole time while she's doing what she's doing. This patch, and slightly less so in the last couple patches, she has been dead serious. There's not been a single ounce of like any type of happiness on her end at all. Now this could just be because she knows she's about to die and whatever plans she has are not going to go completely to fruition. But I would like to say that voice in her head has finally fully corrupted her, and she's fully started serving it, losing some of herself in the process. And I'm not sure if in the cutscene there at the end the artist just decided to make her look really evil, but if you notice, she looks really, really weird in that last cutscene. I'll go ahead and put a still image of her face up from that. She looks like she has like these vines growing through her face, as well as her eyes glowing green. That doesn't look like the face of a normal Sylvari, even Scarlet. Oh, and also I wanted to address really quick, a lot of people seem to be upset that Bram cut her off when she was saying, don't you want to know my plan? I want you to look at this from a certain perspective here. Every time we've gone against Scarlet, what has happened in the end when we've fought her in person? She ends up going through a nice little monologue, and we listen to her and try to figure out what she's doing, and then she poofs away. I think the heroes here are finally sick of it, especially with all of the violence and all the deaths she's caused. So it kind of makes sense that they don't want to give her a chance to escape at all. But I can't think of any more of the theories to talk about for right now. If there are, then leave them in the comments, and I'll try and put an annotation or something addressing it in the video here. Content-wise, I was very happy with this update. They had some bumps and bruises trying to get the Assault Knights to work properly, and also not having the Prime holograms stay invulnerable. But once all these fights play out the way they're supposed to, it gives you a very, very epic feeling to the whole final encounter. You're going into a besieged city that's been almost completely destroyed, trying to take it back. You fight 3 giant Watch Knights, then you get teleported up to a really giant hologram that splits and has multiple phases to it. And these are not boss battles you can just go AFK and spam 1 on, like a lot of the other boss battles have been in Guild Wars. These are really nice battles. Now, do I wish they'd given us a little bit more of Scarlet's motives exactly behind all of this? Yeah, I do. But I have a feeling some of that's going to come out in these epilogue patches that are coming up. I think this is a very good cap to the end of the Living Story Arc 1. And if ArenaNet can keep up the quality of these updates close to this one, then we're looking at a very good time going forward with the Living Story. That's pretty much all I have to say on this update. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, things I've left out, things I've done terribly to you, please leave it in the comment section, let me know. If you like this video and want to see more like it, I have some more on my channel. If you've missed any of the past Living Story updates, I have a video for every single Living Story update, and I could plan on continuing to do that for everyone going forward. Thank you all for watching. It's been a fun ride through this first arc of the Living Story. I plan to see you all in the second arc. See you next time.
By the way, if you're not a teabagging Scarlet, you're not doing it right.